Let's bring in TaLisa Carter. She's an assistant professor in the Justice, Law, and Criminology Department at American University here in Washington. Professor, thank you for being on the program with us. I mean, these allegations are absolutely horrifying, disturbing on so many levels. You heard some of them in Owen Furclough's piece. We're talking about neglect, corruption, rampant sexual abuse, torture, inmate escapes, suicides, the mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic. On top of it, secrecy and cover-ups. How can something like this be happening in our federal prisons in America?
Yeah, so thank you for having me, Asieh. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak about this. It really aligns with me personally because I worked as a correctional officer prior to becoming an academic. And so let me be clear. The federal system, the state system, the local system, the correctional system in the United States, period, is riddled with issues. That's indisputable, right? Whether or not we see it from incarcerated people themselves, from videotapes, from cell phone videos, right, in Mississippi, in other southern states, or whether we're hearing from reports from people who are charged with ensuring the well-being of the facility, because those happen too. We know that there are problems. So how does it happen? It's because we have a culture, right, in corrections that needs to be reformed. Now, I'm not saying there aren't good COs, right? I believe I was one of them. However, there's still an overriding culture where because prisons, jails are away from the community, we don't have the oversight that we should, right, at this point in our society.
So, Professor, what do you tell families of those either incarcerated or the woman we heard in Owen's piece who, lost a loved one? It was never reported, and they put their entire trust in this system. What do you tell these anguished relatives?
So, sorry doesn't do it. Right? Prayers and thoughts don't do it. There's no words that can compensate for actually losing a loved one, particularly in facilities that are charged with protecting them and keeping them safe. That is the mission of most carceral facilities in the United States, to ensure the safety and security of the prison community, right? So that's not just for people, right, in officer uniforms, but that's for everyone in the facility. And we fall short sometimes. So there are no words to tell them, but there are things that states are doing, that jails are doing, that the prison system is doing broadly, where we're trying to reduce these incidents from happening. To eliminate them altogether would be ideal, but we're taking steps in that direction.
A number of lawmakers in the Senate have introduced legislation. They did it actually in September to overhaul oversight and bring greater transparency. They held hearings in September. How optimistic are you that this will actually lead to fundamental change?
Yes, I'm cautiously optimistic, as I often am. So this is a bipartisan bill, right? It was, like you said, it was introduced in September, right? And we just recently had criminal justice, kind of a First Step Act, right? That act going into legislation. So there's been kind of minute progress, right? So with the federal prison oversight bill, I'm hopeful that we can make another step, another important step. But I'm cautious. Right now, as the bill is written, it's only for federal institutions, right? And so federal institutions are only a little over 100 of the total 6,000 plus carceral facilities we have in the United States. So whatever change we see, we can hope that it'll be the first domino for systemic reform in the vast amount of facilities across the United States. But we're only talking about less than 2% of prisons will be impacted by this bill, even if it comes into law as is. And so that amount of change often doesn't do it for my students that I teach in class, and it doesn't do it for me quite personally.
Wow, so much more to talk about. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. TaLisa Carter, thank you very much. Nearly